You guys, welcome to Sick of Pricks, a type 2 diabetes podcast. I'm Mary, your diabetes bestie. And today we're talking about one of the most exhausting, frustrating cycles, the quit cycle. You know, the one where you're throwing yourself into a new plan, falling off, berating yourself, beating yourself up, and then swearing you'll start fresh on Monday, and then repeating it over and over and over. I lived there for most of my adult life. Mondays were basically my whole personality, and honestly, it was one identity that I should have ditched a long, long time ago. But you guys, it took me a lot of time to figure out my crap and why I kept going back to I'll fix it on Monday, I'll start on Monday, or I'll start over on Monday, I'll figure it out on Monday, I'll have more discipline on Monday, I'll be motivated on Monday, life won't be as crazy on Monday. But you guys, life is always crazy. So we need to figure out how to keep going when the mess happens. And that's what we're talking about on today's episode. So here's what the quit cycle looks like. And this is something you might relate to because so many of us go through this start and stop cycle over and over again. So picture it. I feel like giving a Golden Girls reference, but I won't. Picture it. It's Sunday night. You have stocked the fridge, your workouts are planned, your clothes are laid out. Maybe you even have a brand new journal waiting for you. Monday is perfect. Monday is fire. You are checking all the boxes, you're getting all the things done. Tuesday, you're still feeling refreshed, this renewed energy. Wednesday, life smacks you in the face. Thursday, you're off track. Friday, you're swearing Monday will fix everything. That was me. I can't tell you how many half-written journals I have shoved in drawers all over my house. If I stack them up, they probably reach the ceiling. Okay, each one of those journals started with the best of intentions, and then they were abandoned by Wednesday. So why do we do it? Why do we get stuck here? One reason I think is because we go into any new attempt at health as an all or nothing thinking. You eat one cookie, it equals disaster. And instead of moving on, I would eat the whole box. Well, I already messed up. I might as well really go big, right? But one cookie doesn't make you a failure, and eating a whole box of them doesn't make you a monster either. It makes you a human. And accepting my humanity was a huge part of my being able to move forward. Another reason we stay stuck in this quit cycle is we use shame as motivation. We think that if we hate ourselves enough, we'll magically do better. But I'm here to tell you that that doesn't work. I used to cry in front of the mirror, promising myself that Monday would be the fix. But that's not motivation, it's punishment. And you can't punish yourself well. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you hear me say that all the time. You cannot hate yourself well. You have to love yourself there. And the last reason I think we get stuck in this quit cycle is that we're chasing perfection instead of progress. My diet plan of choice used to be Weight Watchers. I have probably signed up for Weight Watchers a dozen plus times in my life, and you would get the little points tracker. Of course, I would buy like the multi-week one because I was committed this time, right? And I would set all these goals. I was going to drink my water, exercise every day, log all my meals, count all my points, prep my protein for the week. I was going to weigh myself. I was going to read this self-help book. I had so many things that I was going to do. Okay. And then when I didn't do every single one of those things, I felt like I screwed up. And instead of focusing on all the things I actually did do, I would focus on the one or two things I didn't and equated that to failing. And so if I couldn't do it perfect, why should I bother at all? Perfection is not motivation. It's a setup. You're setting yourself up for that do-over, for that I'll start on Monday. We have to change our mindset about what goals are realistic and about what progress over perfection actually means. And this is probably an unpopular opinion, but sometimes we stay in this quit cycle because it feels safe. Monday feels like this shiny, fresh start, and starting over gives us that little bit of hope, right? We get excited. We're like, Monday is the day. This is the time that I'm going to do it. And honestly, it feels a little bit easier than facing the truth, which is that progress is messy and it's slow, and we all want it yesterday. I used to love the drama of a Monday restart. New lists, new apps, new journal, new promises, new me. It felt exciting. The problem with that is that excitement never lasted. And the thing is that the quit cycle doesn't just waste your time. It drains your joy and it erodes the trust that you have in yourself. I remember a vacation, probably every vacation for the last 15 years up until recently, where I would spend the whole first day of vacation basically saying, I'll start again Monday when I'm home. So instead of being able to enjoy the view, the environment, the mountains, the lake, the beach, whatever, I would sit there stewing, hating myself for eating a burger. And it wasn't just vacations. It was birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays. I couldn't live in the moment because I was too busy promising myself that I'd fix it on Monday. The quit cycle isn't just about food or workouts. It's about trust. Can you trust yourself to keep showing up even when it's messy? Here's the part that stings the most. Every time you quit, you're not just breaking a diet or skipping a workout. You're breaking a promise to yourself. And let's be real, we keep promises to everybody else, right? If you tell your boss you're going to have a project done, you stay up until all hours to get it done. If your kid needs something for school, you're at Target at 10 o'clock at night, no questions asked. Okay, maybe you're going to ask questions or say a few choice phrases if you're at Target at 10 o'clock at night, but you know what I mean. If your friend calls, you show up even when you're exhausted. But when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to the promises that we make ourselves, we are the first ones we cancel on. I know you understand what I'm talking about. Every time I did it, I was teaching myself not to trust me. I was stacking evidence that said, Mary, you don't follow through. Mary, you can't be counted on. And that is a lot to accept about yourself. It is heavy, and over time, it changes the way you see yourself. You stop setting goals because deep down, you don't believe you're going to keep them anyway. You stop dreaming because you don't trust yourself not to let you down. Every broken promise chips away at self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of everything. But here's the good news. Self-trust is like a muscle. You can rebuild it, not with grand gestures or huge goals or perfect workout calendars or a perfect meal plan, but with small, repeatable actions. Promise yourself 1 glass of water in the morning and keep that promise. Promise yourself 5 minutes of movement and keep that promise. Promise to check your blood sugar before bed and keep that promise. The more you follow through, the more evidence you stack in your favor, the louder that inner voice gets that says, see, I can trust myself again. You don't rebuild trust with big Monday declarations. You rebuild it with tiny Tuesday receipts. And once you start keeping promises to yourself, everything shifts. You start believing your word again. You start seeing yourself as capable, and that's when consistency becomes less of a struggle and more of who you are. So, let's talk about how to quit quitting. Stop waiting for Monday. You don't need Monday. Monday is not magic. You just need the next best choice. If breakfast was chaos, lunch can still be a win. You don't need a new week. You need a new decision. I remember so many times that I would have a drive-through binge. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I used to go to the drive-through and order 2 meals and pretend that one of the meals was for someone else, but it was really all for me. I didn't want anyone to think of me like, "Oh my gosh, look at that pig who's eating all this herself." I don't even know what they thought. I don't know if they thought about it at all. Plenty of people go to the drive-through and order multiple meals for their families, but I think because I was in this bigger body, I needed to, like, come up with an excuse of why I was ordering so much food, and I'd say things like, "Oh, what did he want again? Hmm," and then I would order, but I would really eat it all myself in the parking lot and throw away the evidence before I got home. But here's what I've learned. That even if I do something like that, even if I have a moment where my eating seems out of control, I don't have to stay out of control. I can choose to stop that cycle and make a different choice the next time I eat. So it doesn't have to be a cycle or a spiral where it's unrecoverable from. Is that a word? Unrecoverable? Anyway, um, those moments are not glamorous. Those moments can bring up a lot of feelings for me about guilt and shame and the way that I used to treat myself. But more importantly, every time I made a healthier choice for myself after an episode like that, it was powerful. So it's not just about the food, it's about reclaiming my power. The second thing you can do to quit quitting is to set smaller goals. In the sisterhood, we talk a lot about a healthy habit focus because, as I said when I was talking about my Weight Watcher story, I tried to change my entire life overnight, right? I listed like 10 things that I was going to do. I would journal, work out, drink my water, meal plan, work out every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And if I didn't do one of those things, then it was like, ugh, I didn't do it perfectly. But with a healthy habit focus, what I tell members of the sisterhood is to pick one thing. That one thing is going to be your healthy habit focus. And what you're going to do is you're going to do that thing every single day until it becomes part of you, until it becomes part of your routine. For example, checking your blood sugar when you wake up in the morning. Okay? For some people, that's like, oh, they're in the rush of the busy, 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 and they just don't get to it. But when you make it a priority and when you do it over and over and over every single day and it becomes part of you, that's when you add a second thing. And then a third thing and a fourth thing. And eventually you have all the things working in your favor instead of against you. Okay? That's how I went from living in denial about my condition, about type 2 diabetes, about my weight, to down 165 pounds, triathlete, black belt in martial arts, half marathons, all these things because I took it one healthy habit at a time, one goal at a time. Because if I looked at the big picture, if I looked at 165 pounds to lose, it was so overwhelming that I was paralyzed. Another way to quit quitting is to redefine what success means, what growth means along this journey. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not about being perfect. It's not about never falling down or failing. It's about how quick you can get up. And anytime I would have those episodes where I would abandon my self-care or I would have a binge episode, sometimes it would take weeks for me to come back to myself. But now, as I've learned my triggers, as I've learned to pay attention to my body, sometimes now it's just minutes or hours. So it's not about never messing up or never having an off day or never taking a break. It's about how we pick ourselves up, okay? And then we have to think about consistency over intensity. 10 minutes a day beats 2 hours once a month. We just talked about this in the Sisterhood on a Coaching call. And when we are in that gung ho, I'm going to do all the things mode, we sometimes burn ourselves out. We might be working out an hour a day, and then by the fourth day, we're so sore and we're so tired that we have to rest for 3 weeks. I would rather you do 10 minutes every day than an hour twice a month, right? Because the consistent action builds. Consistent action builds momentum, and that momentum keeps you going. The last thing is, I need you to talk to yourself the way that you would talk to your best friend. As I said before, you can't hate yourself healthy. And when you're having a rough day, what I want you to say to yourself is, hey, self, and then fill it in with whatever you would say to the person you love most in this whole world who was having a hard day. Okay? Because that is the kind of love and compassion that we all deserve. Here's what changed everything for me. For years, I gained and lost the same weight over and over. Mondays were my ritual, my obsession. When I finally decided that quitting was not an option, things shifted. It wasn't about an overnight transformation. It was about stacking wins and refusing to let one bad day erase all of my progress. And those small wins, they added up to real results. They are why I get to be here, healthy, laughing, living my life instead of sitting on the sidelines. So here's the truth. You don't need Monday. You don't need perfect. You just need to keep showing up in the smallest, most sustainable way you can. Here's my challenge to you this week. When you hit that moment where old you would have said, I'll start Monday, I want you to start right then, even if it's small, especially if it's small. I want you to quit quitting and start continuing. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Sick of Pricks. If this episode hit home, share it with a friend, leave a review, or hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And let's connect in one of my Facebook support groups. You can find all the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.